The federal government says it is considering changes to the criminal code to ban so-called conversion therapy.
It's called conversion therapy, and though it may seem like a relic of the past, it is still legal.
As he would word it, correcting the error of my homosexuality.
Canada's federal government has introduced legislation to criminalize it, and now British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is promising to do the same.
Hi, my name's Nik Jovčić-Sas, and I'm an LGBT activist and performer, and I have been working in the field of orthodoxy and sexuality in Eastern Europe for about 10 years. I think conversion therapy has been accepted as being medically defunct as a thing for quite some time. I have done quite a bit of work on how in a lot of former communist countries and former socialist countries in Eastern Europe, where there has been a process of desecularization after communism, there's also been a rise in religious conversion therapies. I've met people in this country who have gone through religious conversion therapy. It's weird. I think it's something that we don't imagine to go on in Britain. It is definitely something that happens in this country. Conversion therapies and different forms of, trying to change people's sexuality is an interesting area where, people believe in religious freedoms, but I think when it borders on abuse, I think that's when we have to raise questions about the legality of things like conversion therapy. And one example I found very compelling was the rise in gay exorcisms that were happening in Eastern European countries, particularly Orthodox countries. The most extreme example I heard personally was I met a woman who worked for Turgo, which is a Ukrainian LGBT charity that tries to unite parents and LGBT children who've come apart. And she told me a story of a 15-year-old boy who came out to his parents as gay, and they took him to the local priest, and the priest decided to perform some kind of exorcism on him where they would take him into the church tower and ring the bell over him. So they put him in the bell and ring the bell around him, and this led to the boy having a psychotic break, basically. And it destroyed his life. Many of these kind of exorcism liturgies or practices, they're just basically made up. There's no real liturgical history in the Orthodox Church, at least. So the place I had my exorcism was the Saharna Monastery in the north of Moldova, quite close to the border with Transnistria. And I think in the moment I arrived there, I realized in a weird way how lucky I was in that when I was a teenager, I had my own, questions and conflict about my sexuality and my faith, but obviously now I'm much more kind of okay with myself and definitely in a much better place. But as I arrived to that monastery and I saw everything that was there, it made me realize if you were in a more vulnerable place with your mental health or a more vulnerable person, how intimidating it could be. It basically looked like something from between something from a Russian mobster flick and a Dracula movie. It was up in the mountains, and it was -5, there was snow everywhere. The exorcism itself didn't happen in the church itself, but actually a church they were building next door, and all there was of that was these concrete breeze blocks with a massive crucifix on the back wall and a spotlight on a table full of knives and holy water. I did in that moment question whether I had made a good decision in putting myself through this, but I wanted to go through it to document the reality, because as far as I'm aware, the Saharna Monastery in Moldova still does this every Thursday. In that sense, also as well with these exorcisms, these exorcisms are given to people who have drug addiction, to people who have PTSD from domestic abuse or sexual abuse. Neurodivergent are treated with very traumatic exorcisms. I think the reason why people go through it is because I think there's often pressure from families. When I first started to realise I was gay, I didn't want to be gay. I wished there was some way I could change. And I think if you lived in a place where it was dangerous to be LGBT, where you knew your family wasn't going to accept you for it, you may just be you know, inclined to take up that option. Well, also as well, when I had the exorcism, it didn't work. And I asked the priest why it didn't work, and he said I had to come back and have one again, or I needed to pray more, or I wasn't doing enough in my spiritual life for it to work, and so I had to. And it really boosts this idea that it's your fault, there's something broken with you, there's something wrong with you, and that you can fix it through prayer. And also, I think it's really not worth emphasizing the fact that I had to pay money for that exorcism. The exorcism they performed on me, they used a kind of ritual knife that's used in the Orthodox Church called Holy Lance. They kind of lined people up and they anointed them with a kind of holy oil. They would just stab them all over with this holy lance, sorry. And it didn't draw blood. It wasn't comfortable, shall we say, but you know, it wasn't supposed to, like, you know, physically injure you. Someone would do it and they'd be fine, someone would do it, they'd be fine, and then someone would like have this like kind of massive reaction where they'd be like screaming and in hysteria. I think some of them were plants, but I also have been to religious ceremonies where I've seen that when people start acting like that, it kind of induces this mass hysteria where people end up behaving like that, even if they wouldn't have in normal circumstances, but this kind of heightened experience of like the lights, the fear, the group mentality, and everything makes, you know, everyone have these kind of crazy reactions. As a person of faith, I do believe in the supernatural to an extent. I do believe in miracles. But I do worry about the state of LGBT rights globally and in this country in the future, because I don't think we're necessarily heading in a good direction right now.